there's no bigger LeBron supporter than Nick Wright of Fox Sports 1, First Things First, and they're great co-hosts there. Is your faith in LeBron shaken at all, Nick?
My faith in LeBron, no. I do think it's pretty clear he's not 100%, but I do think they will win tonight. Is my faith in the Lakers' ability to win the championship shaken? It has to be somewhat. I mean, they went into the year the clear favorites. They didn't really look like it after the first 2 months of the season. And now you have to, there's the following things are all in question. If they get past Phoenix, which I think they will, by the way, when will Anthony Davis come back and what Anthony Davis are you getting? And even if Anthony Davis comes all the way back, what has happened to Dennis Schroeder? We've seen different guys who get COVID be different players right after. And it's a little bit of a black box how much it affects everybody. But Schroeder, I thought, was going to be fine because games 2 and 3, he was really good. But game 4, he was bad. And game 5, he was worse than you, Dan, and you didn't play. But you at least had 0 points on 0 shots. Schroeder had 0 points on 9 shots. So all those things have shaken my faith somewhat. But sorry to filibuster, but can I give one positive?
Sure.
No. There's nothing in the world worse than losing in the finals. So if he loses tonight, at least LeBron won't have to worry about a finals loss. And in fact, in the chase of the infinite chase of Michael Jordan, where Jordan has the biggest lead is first round losses. He's up 3-0. So LeBron could close that gap a bit, which is nice.
A better supporting cast, the Lakers or the Clippers?
Well, are you saying after their top 2?
Yeah.
It's right now the Clippers, but neither's great. I think the Clippers for 2 years have had a bad roster. I've been the only person in America who's been saying it. I said it all year last year. You don't have a rim protector and you don't have a point guard. Seems kind of important. And this year they're like, got the rim protector, Serge Ibaka. I'm like, don't know. Like, got the point guard. Who? We're going to trade for Rondo. Okay. All right. And then here's the thing. You know how I know the Clippers don't have a great roster? In the final minute of game 5 of the postseason, Nick Batum and Terrence Mann were on the court. No one was hurt. No one had fouled out. That ain't great.
Yeah, and the Clippers are puzzling just because they should know Luka. They should know his game. Now, you got a former defensive player of the year in Kawhi Leonard. You got a great two-way guard in Paul George. At some point, I got to get the ball out of his hands.
Dan, listen, I consider myself as much of a basketball historian as one can be, but and I'm not trying to be sarcastic here. You've obviously been able to watch the game longer than me. And I know people, my generation, sometimes we're a little more prisoner of the moment-y. So tell me if you think I'm being over the top here.
Yeah.
But I think what we're seeing in Luka is the makings of a guy who's going to be one of the 10 greatest players ever. He has played 11 career playoff games. They have all been against Kawhi and Paul George. So no first round series against a bad, Pistons team with Andre Drummond where you can just rack up stats. He already has as many career 40-point playoff games as Magic Johnson, Tim Duncan, and Karl Malone. He's only played 11, and it's all been against these guys, and he has no all-star teammates. What this reminds me of, almost line for line, LeBron's second year in the playoffs, at age 22, with no other all-stars. It's like, oh my God, they're in the finals.
Yeah.
And Luka, at age 22 in his second playoffs with no other all-stars. And Dan, he plays like how I assume you play against Fritzy. Like you get in front of him, put your butt on his hip, and it's like you can't get to the ball. It's insane. He plays like they're little kids out there, and it's best players in basketball.
But I wonder, though, Nick, when the media turns on Luka, that this is a wonderful story. You're putting up great numbers, but LeBron got to the NBA Finals with one of the worst teams that's ever been in the NBA Finals. And I wonder if, at some point, we want receipts from Luka of can you do what other great players have done before?
Well, what if the Mavs get to the finals?
Oh, that'd be that.
I don't think it's out of bounds. I don't think it's out of I don't know how Utah's going to deal with Luka. Utah's got a great defensive player in Gobert who has almost no utility against Luka.
Yeah.
Luka's not going to try to get to the rim. And so I just think that you're right. Eventually, eventually he's going to have to show the receipts. Everyone. Giannis got a few years leeway. KD got a few, but KD got to the finals early. He just got beat by LeBron, but he got to the finals early. But then we started coming for him a bit after they blew the 3-1 lead to Golden State, even though that was a great team. So I agree with you but I think this is a hell of a start, man. And I think you do have to start to think last year, back when Kristaps Porzingis was a good basketball player, I don't know what's happened to him. Would they have won that series if Kristaps didn't get hurt?
I think so. I thought they were the better team last year, and this doesn't surprise me. It surprises me of how Dallas is still doing this. Like, they haven't really changed their game plan. It's just, Luka, go out and just see what you can do. And then if somebody happens to get hot, then great. Tim Hardaway will make sure, you'll get the ball. Dorian Finney, like somebody, hey, Porzingis showed up. It doesn't feel like there's a whole game plan here.
Last night was also a great example of why at times, like we all saw what Dame did, and Dame's game was special for a million reasons, but we give it extra special quality because of what he did in the fourth quarter and the overtimes. We've always put an added importance on what you do late in games, but sometimes that's unfair because Luka was clearly wiped at the end of that game. Why? Because when they tried to rest him earlier, the moment he's off the court, they look like the worst offense in basketball.
Yeah.
So like everyone else is a little fresher than him late in the games because it's not only that he's playing 40 plus minutes, but the ball is in his hands the entire time.
He's Dick Wright, Fox Sports 1's First Things First co-host. Would you ask the question to Anthony Davis about Charles Barkley's new nickname for him?
Like, what do you mean? If I were in the media,
yeah.
I am in the media, but if I were at a press conference, yeah, I think I think Chuck is if it was, let me put it like this. If I had given him that nickname, then no one should ask him about it because I'm just an idiot who just talks about basketball, right? When it's a Hall of Famer, when it's one of the best to ever do it, who, by the way, you play basically the same position, even though it's very different, I think that it's fair. I think it's fair to ask him, what do you, yeah, I think that would be fair. Do you think it wouldn't be?
I think it depends on when you ask him, and now if he said yesterday at the press conference, hey, I'm going to play in game 6. Hey, is this any reaction to what Charles Barkley, his new nickname, calling you street clothes? Then at least it's, I can see where people say, hey, I'm not playing all the time. These are legitimate injuries, but I'm playing tomorrow night. I don't know how you ask it, when you ask it, but I do think that it's there. I mean, it was the top trending topic yesterday that he called.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying that it's a big deal, and it's the Lakers, and then it becomes even bigger.
And I also think that I think that Chuck opens himself up, and I know Chuck a little bit. You know Chuck really well. He opens himself up for guys to be able to come back at him, which I think would be totally fair.
Yeah.
If AD wanted to say, wait, is Charles Barkley is saying that I'm not in playing shape? That's the argument he's making. Like there are things, Chuck's not impervious to criticism of these things. I also think that, here's where I'll defend Anthony. I think Anthony probably hurt his groin in part because he was playing through a bad knee, right? Like, so that was what the team said yesterday. Was the doctor said the hyperextended right knee, it led to the groin injury. At least they think that, the old kinetic chain thing. So maybe if he simply had sat out with the knee injury, then maybe he's healthy for game 5. The knee's better and the groin doesn't happen. And I think that this is going to sound silly, maybe a little silly. We're kind of in a post Kevin Durant world, which was people have burned the columns, but go back and read, what was being implied in a lot of the Bay Area press about Kevin Durant's recovery from the calf injury, that the team is expecting him back. And even the owner of the Warriors was like, we think KD could be back any day now. And then all of a sudden he comes back and he pops his Achilles, right? So I do think there is a bit of concern about trying to push guys too fast.
I think what Kevin Durant has done in the postseason has been undersold dramatically. Like he was off for 500 days. I mean, I look at him and say that if you have a shooter's menu, a scoring menu, he gets to order from whatever appetizer, entree, dessert. He'll just sort of go, okay, I haven't hit a 15-footer in a while. I'm gonna hit a runner. I'm gonna take a 3-point. I'm gonna take you off the dribble. There's not many guys in the NBA who can do it. He does more without appearing to do more than any player in the NBA, in my opinion.
All right, so he's showing seemingly no ill effects from the Achilles, which is unprecedented. I understand the Celtics were overmatched, and he again is in a beneficial position because it's like the bizarro version of Luka. You can't focus all your defense on KD. You really have to single cover him because of the team he's on. I get all of that, but he's playing almost perfect offensive basketball from an efficiency standpoint. I had somebody who is somebody that is very, very close with a different top player in the league, not KD. Make the argument that if you had every player in league history standing on a blacktop and you were just describing their traits to somebody who had seen none of them play, that the unquestioned number one pick based on traits would be Durant. It's like, okay, tell me about this guy. Okay, well, he's 7 feet tall. He has handle like a guard. He can protect the rim. He can score from anywhere on the court. He's athletic. He doesn't have a seeming weakness. Like if you describe, obviously I think LeBron is a far all-time greater player than Durant. But if you describe LeBron in the same scenario, it's like, well, he's 4 inches shorter. He's not as good of a ball handler, and he's not as good of a shooter. And so like Durant, when Durant is full go, and when he doesn't have the added weight of I have to do it all myself, he's pretty flawless, man.
Before I let you go, I'm having a hard time understanding what the Celtics are doing, because I have a great coach who now is my president and GM who has to now hire a coach. And the analogy I used was, let's say back in the mid-'90s, I'm doing SportsCenter, and I say, kind of getting tired or burnt out a little bit. Could I be a coordinating producer and head up all of the SportsCenter talent? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, right? But that's what I feel like. Brad Stevens, hey, you're 44. You're a great coach. Been to the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to make you GM. And now you got to hire a coach. What am I missing here?
I don't understand it, especially because is the Celtics job a perfect job? No. Tough to recruit free agents to that city. And you're not missing draft picks, but amazingly, Danny Ainge, after hoarding all these assets, they have no extra firsts. No. And they're in a tricky cap situation. But it's almost assuredly the best GM job that's going to come open. And so I would think you would call up Masai Ujiri, say, hey, you want to come run the Celtics? And by the way, and maybe Sam Presti. If Sam Presti's like, listen, I've left the cupboard full for whomever's next, but man, I don't want to do this full rebuild. And it feels like you created a void in one of the few spots you were set at to create an unknown at another spot. It doesn't. Yeah, I agree with you entirely. Like it is difficult to believe you're going to get a coach better than Stevens, and we have no reason to believe, positively or negatively, that Stevens is going to be a good GM. I don't get it. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I've created 2 questions instead of 1. And that is, I could have kept Brad Stevens as my head coach, and I could have gotten a GM. It's Sam Presti and Brad Stevens. That makes you so much stronger, it feels like. And now it feels like you've weakened yourself. Unless those players have tuned out Brad Stevens, which I don't know. It just feels like there's something there's a disconnect there. And I think Nick's feed just froze up. It's a dramatic pause by Nick. It is. It looks like he's really serious.
He's baffled by
Yes,
the
he
Celtics
is.
situation.
Yes, he is.
Nailed that question.
My
DP.
thanks to Nick Wright joining us for Fox Sports 1, First Things First. Yes, Todd. Would you let Nick know that thank you very much?
I will do that.
Okay, thank you very much.